Hello everyone, and welcome to a new Q&A. I hope you're all surviving the hot weather we're having lately, with lots of cool drinks, days at the beach. Others might not quite enjoy the summertime, as I do. They've been spending it in the green corrupted area of Tanaan. Either way, I hope you're all doing great. For me, the hot weather isn't the best time, man. I've had lots of mosquitoes keeping me up at nights, late nights, not a lot of sleep, but hey. Show must go on, right? I received some great questions once again, so it's time to do another Q&A. So sit back, sip on that nice cold drink, and let's answer a few questions, shall we? Starting off with something icy and cold, the first question comes in from Julian Martinez. Hello Noble, I've been running ICC for the Mount, and I've been wondering, is there any lore behind the bosses there? I've read what little there is, but it all seems thrown together at the last minute. Is there anything deeper? I've been asked this many times if I can cover the lore of the raids, and sometimes the story is really well connected, like the Siege of Orgrimmar, but at other times it seems just like a random bunch of things thrown together to make a fun raid. In the case of ICC, we have a few storylines that are interesting, while others just seem to pop up out of nowhere, and as much as I know that you all want me to, I'm not going to do the story of Arthas in a Q&A. However, I can briefly talk about all the other bosses, starting off with Lord Merogar. He's the guardian of the Frozen Throne within the Spire Chamber. He's pieced together by the Lich King from the bones of 1,000 vanquished adventurers, and Merogar wields the power of the throne itself. Without the destruction of this bony being, there is no hope of taking Icecrown Citadel.
Bone Storm!
The Lich, Lady Deathwhisper, is the supreme overseer of the Cult of the Damned. The Cult of the Damned is an organization of the living who serve the Lich King. The cult was formed during the early days of the Third War, so the events of Warcraft 3, when the Scourge was still loyal to the Burning Legion. But over time, the Lich King, he didn't like working for Kil'jaeden, he stepped away from the Legion, and he started to form his own plans. Entering her room, it triggers a speech in which he talks about how all of them found their way because they are amongst the ones gifted with true vision in a world cursed with blindness. She calls the meat on their bones a curse, a weakness, a crippling flaw as a joke played by the creators upon their own creations. They see being turned into the undead as a great honor, but some speculate that she's actually talking about more. The old gods, they cursed some of the Titans' creations with the curse of flesh, which made them weaker, it literally gave them flesh, and it made them more vulnerable for their corruption. Some speculate that the old god Archavon had a lot more to do with the events of the Lich King, considering that one of the visions is about Arthas. As you go inside Archavon, you see these different visions. One is about the Lich King, Serenite, which is used to build up Icecrown Citadel, it's the blood of Archavon, and all of this with the speech connects to Archavon with the Lich King. It's never really been confirmed by Blizzard, so speculation is all we have in that regard, but it does seem like there's more between this old god and the Lich King.
It is a weakness, a crippling flaw, a joke played by the creators upon their own creations.
The Icecrown gunship battle, it's a little bit strange story-wise, but it made for a pretty cool fight. Both the Horde and Alliance, they're assaulting Icecrown Citadel at the same time, and tensions between the two factions are high, since both factions lost a whole bunch of people at the Wrathgate. At the start of ICC, we hear Bolvar 4 Dragon scream, so he's still alive, and with him, there's still hope to bring some sort of peace between the factions. Both factions want so desperately to reach the perfect vantage point, to take down Arthas, save Bolvar, to bring peace, that they decided to blow each other up out of the sky just to get the glory. Now after the gunship battle, we meet another victim of the Wrathgate, Deathbringer Saurfang. This is High Overlord Saurfang's son, who lost his soul to Frostmourne at the Wrathgate, and he's been turned into a Death Knight by the Lich King. His will is no longer his own, and Saurfang realizes that his son died at the Wrathgate, and he has come to collect the body. Both sides defeat the Orc, where on the Horde side, Saurfang he collects his son, but on the Alliance side you see a bit more conversation.
Don't force me hand, Orc. We can't let you pass.
Behind you lies the body of my only son. Nothing will keep me from him.
I can't do it. Get back on your ship and we'll spare your life.
Stand down, Muradin. Let a grieving father pass.
No Ko kills Ilnok Atar. I will not forget this kindness. I thank you, Highness.
I I was not at the Wrathgate, but the soldiers who survived told me much of what happened. Your son fought with honor. He died a hero's death. He deserves a hero's burial.
Respect is shown, and Saurfang takes his boy Dranosh for a proper ceremony in the Grant next to the pyres of his mother and their ancestors. Next up we have Rotface and Festigut, and they don't really have a story besides being created by Professor Putricide, who they see as their father, and they love their pets very much. Professor Putricide, he has perfected a plague which will eradicate all life on Azeroth, and he's probably responsible for all the abominations, the creations, all of that we've seen in the Scourge army. Some speculate that Putricide is actually Dr. Terrible, who was taken care of earlier in a questline. He used the same model as Putricide, and when you kill him he says that he'll rise again, and when he does, he will have his revenge. It's possible that they're one and the same, that they're the same character, but thankfully he didn't get his revenge.
Bad news, everyone! I don't think I'm going to make it.
The Blood Prince Council consists of 3 Darkfallen princes, which we defeated during the expansion. Darkfallen, they're vampiric undead blood elves resurrected by Arthas after they were defeated during Warcraft 3. There is Prince Keleseth, who was the first boss of Utgard Keep, and he's the Scourge Overlord of the Howling Fjords. Prince Valanar, he was the Scourge Overlord of Borean Tundra, and he was taken out with the help of Vasarian. Then there is Prince Taldaram, who was the second boss of Ankahet, where he was searching for lost Nerubian relics to empower the Scourge's murderous ranks and please the Lich King. With the Dark Fallen Orb empowering them, they tried to stop us, but they failed, and the next encounter was against their Blood Queen Lanafel. Not all the Blood Elves that were turned into Dark Fallen, they died during the battle with Kilfa Sunstrider. Some of them survived a little longer in Northrend, they were left behind by their prince, and one by one Arthas picked them off. He converted them into his dark army, and Lanafel was one of those survivors. With the legendary blade Quel'Dalar, she tried to hold her ground, but the might of Frostmourne was simply too great. She lost her life as well. Arthas decided to not only turn her into a Darkfallen, he made her the Blood Queen of all of them, and Lanafel, she eagerly carried out her new duties. However, the legendary blade Quel'Dalar, it reminded her of the life that she led before, and she could not afford such distractions. With a scream that echoed throughout Icecrown, she shattered Quel'Dalar and she flung the fractured pieces as far as she could. Heroes would later find the battered hilt, restore the legendary blade, while Lanafel found her demise within ICC.
But we were all getting along so well.
Next up, Valifria Dreamwalker. She's one of the bosses that seems very random, since all we know is that she's a captured green dragon, and they tried to destroy her so that they could resurrect her into an agent of the Scourge. By restoring her health, we gave her enough power to shatter her bonds that were keeping her down, she liberated herself, and then she simply disappeared. Finally, there's Sindragosa, a blue dragon in life, and she was the prime consort of the blue dragon aspect Malygos himself. During the War of the Ancients, they created a device known as the Dragon Soul, which was planned to be used against the invading Legion. What they didn't know was that Deathwing, he was corrupted by the Old Gods, and he didn't just use the device against the Legion, he also used it against the Night Elves and even his fellow dragons. With its power, he nearly wiped out the entire Blue Dragon flight, including Sindragosa. The blast of the spell that he used, it hurled her all the way over to the cold north. There, she was blinded and near death. Sindragosa, she sought desperately to reach Dragonflight, the place where all dragons instinctively travel to die. No longer able to fly, Sindragosa plummeted to the cold earth in the region of Icecrown. The blue dragon gathered what remained of her energy. She called out to Malygos for aid. Her only answer was the howling Arctic wind as she struggled on, but the distance was far too great. Agonizingly, she realized that her spirit would not find rest within the Dragonblight. Her life continued to fade away as her sanity deteriorated. In the midst of her delirium, Sindragosa's final thoughts turned to bitterness and hatred. Hatred against the Legion, hatred against Neltharion, hatred against Malygos, but most of all, hatred against the world of mortals. And in her dying moments, Sindragosa vowed revenge. And many years later, Arthas, he would show up, he used Frostmourne to resurrect the mighty Blue, and she was forced to fight for him. The whole revenge bit never made it into the storyline, since she actually seems happy that we take her out and liberate her from the Lich King's control. That was quite a big answer to give, but so many people have asked about Icecrown that I just had to put it in. For those who wonder when exactly I'll do the story of the Lich King, honestly I have no idea yet. There is a small plan in mind to get the story ready for when I'm at BlizzCon, but I'm not going to make any promises. Those that have seen my videos as to how I make my videos, a set schedule just doesn't work for me. The plan is to one day have all the lore covered on the channel, so it's definitely on the list, it's definitely a story I want to tell, I just can't tell you when. Moving on to the next question, but staying in Northrend, Josh Lyman asks, is there any lore behind Wintergrasp and the Vault of Archavon? Wintergrasp, as most battlegrounds, it doesn't really have a story, besides it being a staging ground for Horde and Alliance to fight over. The reason for that is mainly the resources they could find, and of course, both sides are eager to seize the artifacts and relics held within the vault. They want to use these relics and artifacts against the Lich King, and despite working together, you know, it's a place where we could fight each other. So that's where we went there. Now I never really looked into the lore behind the vault, but interestingly enough, there's actually a log created by Archavon, the Stone Watcher, in which he talks about events that happened while he was charged with guarding the area. The log has been updated a couple of times throughout the patches, and those who want to see the full version, you can either check the description for the link or simply go to the vault. Now these are some of the interesting bits that I noticed, and these are taken from all the versions that have been. Now for example, on day 10, he says that the makers are gone, I have been left to watch. The makers, they are most likely the Titans, who left Archavon to watch the temple. Day 10,500, the halls are quiet. Empty. I thought the makers want me to watch the hall, but they never specifically said, Archavon, watch the hall. Maybe it's okay if I watch the outside too. It will probably be less boring outside. It's decided. I am now responsible for watching the hall and the outside. I shall take on my new responsibility next month. Day 900,500. Been very boring outside. Archavon go to sleep. Some noise outside, it get cold. Now some speculate that this entry into the journal is that Archavon he heard a noise, which was the Sundering, and the Sundering it split the land of Kalimdor and sent Northrend up, so it got a lot colder. Day a lot. Archavon wake up, notice face feels soft. Not important, go back to sleep. Archavon, at this point, he was probably hit by the curse of flesh that I talked about earlier, causing his face to now feel soft. I thought that it was pretty interesting to see him with the earlier records of the lore that some Titan creation actually makes a record of what the Titans told him to do, how all of that went down, and I thought it was really interesting to place it in such a battleground. Now the rest of the entries, they talk about small green people showing up, us fighting each other, his brothers waking up as well, and then fighting them as well. Usually, like I said, battlegrounds don't have much lore behind them, but this was interesting to check out. Next question from Fabian van Dommelen. It's not related to Northrend and it brings us a little bit closer to the current expansion. As a big fan of naval warfare and in light of the shipyard being released in 6.2, my thoughts quickly went to the seafaring nation of Kul Tiras. Could you tell us about this forgotten nation, clues about what might be going on there, and the Proudmoors that ruled or rule it? Is Jaina its ruler? Now first of all, if I pronounce Kul Tiras wrong, then my apologies, and the lore behind it is a little bit hard to explain, because part of it comes from the Warcraft RPG, and that's been declared non-canon, so it's no longer part of the official lore. Other parts of it comes from Warcraft 1 and 2, from the manuals, which have been retconned as well, so it's a little bit clear as to what exactly is part of the official history, and what has been changed. What we do know is that Kul Tiras, it was a large island of Kesmodan's west coast, between Stormwind and Lordaeron, but when Deathwing broke free, the island was shifted out to the sea by shifting tectonic plates. That's the explanation they gave around the Cataclysm, and there were plans in mind of maybe adding Kul Tiras later in the expansion, but those plans never made it in. Looking at its history, it's described as an island with an economy that thrived based on fishing and exports. They never became a real official kingdom, as in ruled by a king or queen. Instead they were ruled by Lord Admirals, who were still a noble, but not a member of royalty. Over time, they started to gather a large fleet with fighting ships mainly aimed at protecting their shipping passages, and later on, when the war against the first Orcish horde started off, Lord Admiral Dalen Proudmoore, he entered Kul Tiras into the alliance of Lordaeron. He offered his fleet a knowledge of the sea to battle against the orcs, and they were a great asset to the alliance, but the orcs, they simply had dragons, and dragons against ships, that's just not a fair battle. Derek Proudmoore, Dalen Proudmoore's first son, he lost his life at sea, and he was burned to a crisp. His father, he survived their encounter with the dragons, but his hatred towards the orcs, towards the horde, it burned within his heart. Over time, the first orcish horde invasion, it would be defeated. Dalen's daughter Jaina would go to Dalaran to study and become a mage, and eventually his own daughter teamed up with Thrall and his new horde against the Legion. Despite losing her brother, Jaina was able to look beyond race, and she stayed focused on the greater good. She took the survivors of the plague that spread across Lordaeron with her, and she took up residence within Fedamore, near Orgrimmar, as a way to keep her allegiance with the Horde standing. Her father was looking for Jaina, of course, and when he searched Lordaeron, he found nothing but a ruined land. Eventually, he too made his way to Fedamore, where he was overjoyed to find his daughter, but not the company she was with. He did not agree with Jaina's allegiance to the orcs. He decided to attack. Jaina, she could not bring herself to strike her own father, but she did give free passage and allow Rexxar and the Horde to enter the city and do what had to be done.
This is not the Horde you remember, old man. We have no interest in conquest or murder. We have paid for the sins of our forebears in blood.
Can your blood atone for genocide, Orc? Your horde killed countless innocents with its rampage across Stormwind and Lordaeron. Do you really think you could just sweep all that away and cast aside your guilt so easily? No, your kind will never change, and I will never stop fighting you.
With Admiral Proudmoore's death, it's uncertain who exactly is the current ruler of Kul Tiras. The Warcraft RPG, it described that Dalen had another son, Tandred Proudmoore, but he's been declared non-canon, so he doesn't exist. That means that Jaina could be the official ruler, although there's also still her mother to consider. We don't know who Mrs. Proudmoore is or was, if she's still alive, if she's out there, so it could be that she took up the mantle of leader, or perhaps someone else stepped in. To your question as to what else might be going on there, that's anyone's guess, to be honest. It could create some awesome drama between Jaina and her mother if they would ever go with the storyline of Jaina. Like, as we know, she first allowed Thrall and Rexxar into the city and take care of business. Later, with Garrosh and the whole bombing of Fedamore, Jaina realized that her father, he might have been right. He might have been right when he said that the horde, that the orcs would turn against her. Now, over time, she has become a little bit more mellow. She still wanted the horde dismantled, but she also realizes, you know, she's now part of the Kirin Tor, so she's now focusing on that. How cool would it be if Jaina finds her mother and has to explain her actions, has to explain exactly what happened? Her mother is probably not happy that her husband died, that her son died, and then that her own daughter turned against them. Could create some awesome drama. And on top of that, you also have, for example, Kaelia Menethil. And Kaelia, she's Arthas' sister, and it's never been confirmed if she died because of the plague, or if she survived and made her ways to somewhere else. It could very well be that one day we'll go to Kul Tiras and we find Kaelia there, ruling the city. Again, drama with Jaina, with Arthas, with Sylvanas. Could make for some awesome storytelling. Like I said, they could do anything with the island, to be honest. They could make it a merchant island supplying the world with goods. They could turn it into a ruined island taken over by pirates and buccaneers. This could make for a very interesting starting zone if they ever add those classes. If the next expansion is really Eye of Azora, then perhaps we'll find the island soon enough. And with that final question, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end this Q&A. Before we say goodbye, I just wanted to let you all know that some announcements for future lore have been released, and I wanted to talk about that at the end of the video. Now, if you don't want any spoilers, and you want to be completely surprised with what's to come, then let me just say thank you very much for watching, and please turn off the video right now. For those sticking around, first up, we have Christie Golden, who's working on a brand new Warcraft novel, which is going to be a prequel to the Warcraft movie. No further details have been given, and it's to set up certain things that we'll see in the movie. So it's very hard to say what exactly the book would be about, considering that the Warcraft movie, it's going to be about the first Orcish Horde invasion. That means that we already have several novels, like Rise of the Horde, The Last Guardian, maybe Tides of Darkness, if they flow the storyline into the formation of the Alliance of Lordaeron. So we already have a good setup as to what the story is going to be about. My first guess was that it would be describing the events of the Horde invading Azeroth and the fall of Stormwind. Like the events in Warcraft 1, that would be what the book is going to be about. This story was already told within the Warcraft 1 game, but not a lot of people have played those games, and those that have played it, the storyline has been retconned and changed over the years, so not everything is canon anymore. I talked about this on Twitter, and somebody came back to me with the idea of, yeah, that's a fine speculation, but the Warcraft movie itself is going to be about the rise of the Horde and the fall of Stormwind. So if this is going to be to set up that storyline, then that wouldn't make any sense. We talked a little bit back and forth, and eventually we came to the conclusion that they could also go with the storyline of the Anduin Lothar and King Rin. Basically the storyline just before the first Orcish Horde invasion. We don't really know what Stormwind had to deal with before the Orcs came, what kind of threats, how Lothar became the champion of Stormwind. There are minor hints here and there, but all the details have never really been given, so that could also make a great storyline. So those are pretty much the two suggestions with the hints given, but time will tell what the book is exactly going to be about. I have no idea, but I do know that I can't wait to get my hands on this novel. Christie Golden is my favorite when it comes to the Warcraft novels, and to hear that new lore is coming, absolutely brilliant. The second announcement was a new Warcraft graphic novel called Bonds of Brotherhood, which is a prequel to Warcraft. This thrilling adventure of bravery, bloodshed and brotherhood is an original story conceived by Chris Metzen, written by the award-winning Paul Cornell from Doctor Who, and featuring art from Matt Broom from Batman No Man's Land, Wildcats and Witchblade. Warcraft Bonds of Brotherhood will be released in May 2016, in the weeks before the movie hits theaters on June 10th. Now for those that have read the novel Last Guardian, the artwork that they used to announce this, it should be a clear hint as to what the story is going to be about. In the Tower of Karazhan, they described a vision of the time that the Guardian Medivh slipped into a coma. I've already done a full story on the Guardians if you want to check it out, but basically what happened was Medivh, he was camping with his buddies Anduin Lothar and King Rin, but at their campsite they were attacked by trolls. In that battle, Medivh unleashed his powers and he saved their lives, but this power, it was simply too much to handle and he slipped into his coma. Chris Metzen has apparently conceived this idea, and he has written a novel before, but this time they're handing it over to Paul Cornell. Now seeing the story come to life and further details, I think, once again, absolutely brilliant. You would always say that I'm really into the Warcraft lore, who knew? But the final one that I can talk about today is the Warcraft Chronicles, and this is not really a new announcement, but it does come with a shiny new video, which I'll link in the description down below. An upcoming exploration into Azeroth's lore, story and settings. Warcraft Chronicle Volume 1 is the first in a series of books that would explore the origins and future of the Warcraft universe as never seen before. Featuring new original artwork by Peter Lee, this holistic look at Warcraft's history will define the world you thought you knew. It's brilliant that they're working on books that make the lore a little bit more clear for everyone, and the artwork that they show in the video, it looks spectacular. I really hope though that they won't go berserk and retcon established lore again, and that they try to stick with what we already know, just logged into a more complete and simple book so that it's accessible for everyone. Again, I can't wait to see this released, but it's all going to be quite some time before it sees the light of day. I think the announcements are made for 2016, so we still got some time to wait. At least we know that we're going to get some new lore tied into the Warcraft movie, and you can really tell that they want to make this a success, right? They're pulling in all the guns, they're getting support for the Warcraft movie, the screen work and the art that they showed for the Warcraft movie, it looks very promising. Oh man, I can't wait for it all to release. But like I said, we'll have to wait a little while. Right everyone, this is me done for today, so thank you very much for watching. As always, if you have a question you would like to see featured in a future Q&A, then please leave it down below in a comment or send them in over at ask.fm. I've also placed a list with questions that I've answered in the past, so if you want to make sure that I haven't already done your question, that list is also in the description. With that, we are truly done. Have a great week everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time guys, see ya!